Heck yeah, we live.
We live. Kennedy versus Kennedy 2.
Once again.
The rematch.
Also me here. That's right.
Fucking back at it again at Krispy Kreme.
It's very much a party vibe. We've got Kennedy from Bad Praxis here. We've just finished our 100th episode. We're going to take a break after Friday. Although, like, what does it mean to take a break when you're doing this shit? Like,
we'll see.
We're going to be working probably fucking harder during the break than we were just making the show. So none of this shit means anything. But
also, we're doing
you guys are working hard
tomorrow. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you guys clowned on me. You both clowned on me last time that I came on your show for Bad Praxis's lax uploading schedule, if you will.
Very lax.
And if you have noticed, we have started uploading more. So fucking thanks for shaming me on your podcast and stream. It's very nice.
As leftists, really, that's what we're all about. We're just about shame and social coercion.
I mean, I believe in bullying. I was bullied, and I turned into this. So
incredible.
It works.
Right.
I hope.
It looks like somebody's excited to see you here. Got a commenter. Also, I just want to say, we're gonna do something pretty exciting for us tomorrow. We're gonna have an early stream. It's not gonna be at our normal time. Our stream's gonna be at 1 Eastern, and we are going to have Zakis, who ran for Congress in New Jersey's 9th district, and some very shady shit went down with her primary. And there's a lot of corruption, and Brand New Congress as organization as a whole is like interested in looking into this and perhaps pursuing some kind of something because this is like, it's a very fucked up situation. So tomorrow we are going to be doing some actual quote unquote journalism.
That's right.
In regards to this possibly fraudulent election and bringing you all the news that we have on that. So tune in tomorrow at 1 Eastern for that. It's going to be a very interesting time.
Y'all are breaking into the big leagues.
I feel like we're the place that people go when candidates want to be messy. Like Ian comes on is like, it's time to drag the Green Party. We're like, come on, we're gonna do it. So yeah, if you have a bone to pick with society in general, like come here. We clearly are all for it.
I mean, that's my experience on this show. Is that I mean, you welcome the fact that I love to be messy and petty,
right?
Mean.
Absolutely. And think about it. Like, it's worth it bullying like dozens of people to make one you. And so we've got to take that bullying and turn it on the political system.
Yeah.
And bully them into good behavior.
Bullying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're all about here.
I think that's beautiful. And I'm really glad that you're both willing to admit it publicly.
Yeah.
Where it can be clipped.
I can tell already. There's the wiki background. Kennedy's back. Kennedy's here. You don't know which I'm talking about with either of those statements.
That's correct.
We
just
were all
of each other.
We were all reminiscing over the fact just before we started that we are all college dropouts, and there are some college graduates that work on Not Safe For Wonks, and sometimes we have to kind of cater to their nerd feelings, you know, about how important it was for them to go to college or whatever. But they're not here today. So
to be fair, Rachel is came out of college a nihilist and extremely depressed, and always admits that education is meaningless. Knowledge is
I like her.
It's hopeless. Yeah, she's right.
Knowledge is not power, folks.
The only thing that
power is power.
Yeah, the only thing that's good about
college. Power.
The only thing that's good about college is like talking to people, and you can talk to people anywhere. Like you can make connections with people anywhere.
Just start a Twitter account.
You liked
same.
People who like college, like you liked college either because you are like a fucking dork and you like talking to your professor, or like you like having situations in which you're forced to be friends with people and you don't have to like look for friends. Like you're sitting next to somebody and you just start talking. It like that's fine. But you can find that at like church, which, you know, of course, as a leftist, I have like criticisms of like the church. But like, the point is, like, you can get that anywhere. You can get that at like your fucking lacrosse team or like a swim meet or your YMCA, right? Like, you don't have to go to college.
A group of people that all get together and smoke weed. There you go.
Oh, done. Hell yeah.
Join a D&D.
That's better. Group. That's better than college. You'll learn more than college.
And, well, you know, obviously we're in a unique economic situation, and people have been promised that this kind of like educational system
oh my God,
would give them like stability and shit like that, economic stability. And, you know, people who go to college tend to earn more than people who haven't. But I also think if we were to take someone and have them not have to spend that time in education, but had to spend it in like social climbing, I would bet that if somebody had like 3 years to do social climbing, and their life expenses were paid for, they'd probably do pretty well as well.
Absolutely.
So, you know.
And definitely my experience has been that like people will sometimes like have asked me, gosh, how did you learn to do all this stuff? And I'm like, I dropped out of college. I had to do something. I couldn't just like sit around at that point, you know? And like, I find that like a lot of people that dropped out of college, like learned like a diverse set of skills that they were actually interested in and passionate about. And like had a lot of like interesting life experiences. You know, I had like a lot of like unconventional life experiences after dropping out of college, like living on farms and, you know, doing like weird shit. And like, that was good for me, you know?
That was it. I was just giving B-roll while you were on a roll there. I wasn't like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm the UX saying I dropped out of college. I had to. I think a lot of us I didn't have a choice. It was I talked about this a lot on this show. I'm very honest about the fact that I grew up poor. I've been poor all my life. Not many people in like my particular part of the family had finished college, although like on my dad's side there's like a whole sect of them that are like very college heavy and like are very judgmental about it, and that sucks, obviously. But like yeah, like I didn't have a choice. This wasn't like what I wanted to do, but like it wasn't an option for me to keep going without taking out huge debt. And although I was not very responsible at that age and didn't make a lot of good decisions, I did make the decision that I did not want a massive burden of debt.
A lifetime of debt.
Like, yeah.
And none of the shit that we're like trying to strategize and do like would even be, we're all kind of fortunate because none of us have like that student loan that's like a 6-figure loan. So yeah, that's good.
I would not. I just want to say for the record, one of the things that enables me to do some of the stuff that I do, like putting a lot of time into like trying to get this independent media thing off the ground, for instance, as a poor person, is the fact that I do not have a mountain of debt sitting behind me, putting that pressure on me all the time, and I can live somewhat free in that regard. So like, you know, I'm definitely very grateful in that regard. Kennedy, why did you drop out? What's your dropout story? You're muted or something. Okay.
So my story is short, which means by the time
that up. But anyway, go ahead, Brandon.
By the time Kennedy comes back, like my story will probably already be told. But like,
right, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't have the money. It wasn't even a lot of money. I just didn't have it. Like, and I think like it's not just the school, but it's like books, it's other shit.
It is.
And
lifestyle that you have to be able to pay for to go to school.
It's a lifestyle you have to. Yeah, I don't begrudge anybody that went through and did all that shit, but yeah, couldn't do it. But also I was in a field like we had people my age who were told to like get into technology and shit. But like so much of that tech world was outsourced. Like even by the time that I was out of that situation, like the prices and rates were just going through the floor because there were like people overseas that have like can't communicate as well, but have like a rough approximation of the skill set. And so just your ability to survive off of that just cratered, especially if you didn't like know somebody that was hiring, because like we're still in a fucking economic crisis. I don't feel like we ever got out the last one. So
No, definitely not.
So, Kennedy, what's your dropout story?
Am I back, first of all? Like, am I good?
Yeah.
You're all good.
This is like, I had to take a sort of a very large role in the life of of my 5-year-old niece who needed a lot of like emotional support. And I tend to only be able to really sink my attention into like a handful of things at a time. And I just really needed to take the, like, college. It wasn't so much that I like had to drop out, like, but I realized like it was sort of a fantasy for me to like pretend that I was able to, because I was needed for other things. My family needed me, and I just didn't have the ability to like waste my time anymore doing things that weren't, because I was a history major. Like, what was it gonna do? It was not like I was gonna fucking come out of college and like make enough money to provide for my family or anything. Like,
teach history,
right? Fucking $33,000 a year, starting or something like that.
Not even making that much, like $23,000 a year.
Yeah, and having like absolutely, jack shit rights at your job.
Yeah.
I tried to get a professor of mine. When I didn't know how anything worked, I was like, "Wow, you should start a strike. I'm so smart, and I know how politics works." God, and that was like 2 years ago.
Are you in any debt right now?
Yes.
I mean, specifically student loan debt, but any debt, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I have student loans, not because I took my sweet ass time as a part-time student for like the entire duration of. I got a depression brain, just so I have to take my time with school, or else I just end up not doing as well, and I would like to not, I don't know. It was stupid, but yeah, I was just fucking. I took 4 years to get through 2 years of college.
We're all in debt to Jesus Christ.
Oh God, yes.
But anyway,
our beautiful lamb.
That's right.
I just want to tell one more detail of my story too, while we're like on this subject, because I think this is really important, which is that I did have a scholarship at first that I was enough to cover my tuition. I still have to find ways to pay for my books and other things, and it was like a bit of a struggle. But like I had a scholarship that was enough to cover tuition at a okay state university, and I had like earned that entirely on merit-based stuff, and I got screwed out of that scholarship by one particular class that I took. It was a silversmithing class, and I failed it, which was a pretty mystifying experience on a lot of levels. I'm not going to get into all the details right now necessarily, but like it was just like a really weird. I even asked the professor, like, when I could have still dropped the class. I was like, am I going to fail this class if I don't drop it? Because I'll drop it, because I'm not going to lose my scholarship over silversmithing. This is an elective. And he was like, no, you'll do fine. It's fine. Your grades have been okay in this class, whatever. And then he failed me. Well, it turned out the university had a scheme that it was exposed for to deprive people of scholarships. And so I was literally like screwed by this huge entity system. And like I had done the thing that you're supposed to do, right, to get out of poverty. Like you're supposed to work really hard in school, get those merit-based scholarships.
It's a fucking meritocracy, my babies. Let's get this bread.
Like that's like the whole, like that's the story that like I was sold, was that like this will work, this will get you out of this cycle. And then my scholarship was taken from me, and I couldn't really continue to go to school without taking on debt. So that was the end of that. And it turned out, like I said, there was a whole scheme, and a bunch of my friends got screwed out of scholarships too, in a lot of shady manners. And it turns out we were all screwed by this big scheme. But it's funny how there's never been any account. Like they fired that president of the university and some shit. But like it's funny that there's never been any accountability that like does something for us, right? Like the people that got screwed by this.
Reparations is always off the table, Kennedy. Let me tell you. I'll just let you know.
Changed by you fucking us out of these scholarships? No, nothing's ever come to us. No.
Once they fuck you over, they keep the gains, man. That's definitely how it goes. And you never get that shit back again. And the people in charge are like, boy, we can't go look back at the past because the crimes that are being committed, like on a daily basis or on a yearly basis by people in power are like so fucking overwhelming that in order to even do any kind of real restitution for it, you would have to put the brakes on the whole system, because like we are continually like in a debt that's more than that is the actual money that's coming in. Just like what would justice demand? Way more than these folks have available. So it's always screw people over as much as possible, and then if things change, the sheer volume and audacity of what's going on can like prevent those things from ever being resolved. You know what I mean? And the people in power, like you talking about this dude got fired from his job. He's probably working at a different college right now. Or he's a famous author because what did we say all this college shit was about? The networking. So he's got his own network now that's going to support him.
Well, and the thing is, also, this was a system. You know what I mean? Like this wasn't one person who was solely responsible for this corruption, which is how they kind of painted it. It was like a couple, like they had a couple people take the fall, but literally like this was all the way down to the level of specific professors, like the one that I'm talking about. And by the way, fuck that guy. You can go fuck yourself. I hope you see this, and I hope you die. Honestly, in Minecraft.
Of natural causes in Minecraft.
Yeah.
Also, and a creeper comes up to your house and just. And you're like, no, I spent all day on this. And I'll be like, yeah, well, you fucked up my entire life. So, you know, I hope, you know, your day is ruined in Minecraft. Yeah. So
this is the spice that we come for. Do we want to talk a little bit about, you know, we often talk about like pure meritocracy as like the American dream or whatever. But we have systems in history that have been meritocratic. And one, they're nightmarish, and two, they're not ever actually meritocratic. And I feel like we should kind of talk about that. Like we had meritocracy in like ancient China, and it was terrible, especially the larger your population gets and the more centralized power is. It means there's like this huge group of people who have like organized their entire life around surviving the meritocracy and passing a test or an exam. And that just like completely ruins the quality of life when you have all these people who are extremely educated and extremely trained and extremely anxious, and they're working very hard to get to this acceptable rung in society, and they're knocked down and they're like, hey, no thank you, you've got to go back to being a fucking peasant. That shit sucks.
Yeah,
Omnilux is on fire about this shit. The other problem with meritocracy isn't just like the dystopian nature of all of us racing for a limited number of slots to have like a decent life, but it's also because it's not meritocratic, because there's like human nature is built towards inheritance. Like if not just inheritance, but nepotism. That's a better word. Like if there's nobody in the entire world that's going to be like, well, you know, I love my child, but the meritocracy is spoken. If you're in a position of power and the shit is about like your child or your best friend or your best friend's child, like power creates cliques. Like that's just naturally how human resources work. If you like, it's not even like a malicious thing. It's just
it just consolidates. It's
power,
like an entity.
Yeah, like if I'm at the table and my boys is drinking and I'm drinking, and I know that person, then I want them to succeed, and I'm gonna like try to do shit to succeed. And I might have like a limiter on it. I might think, hey, I got to do this within reason or whatever. But I'm not gonna be a dispassionate actor with my resources, and that applies double to kids, unfortunately. So usually that meritocracy filters through money. Like if you have the ability to hire a private tutor to pass those tests, then you're going to hire that tutor, and the peasant kid is not going to be able to hire that tutor, right? You're going to talk to the person that knows the exam. You're going to have something called fucking access. Oh yeah, I mean, like, listen, like Kennedy is like can come on whenever she feels like it. Like we ask her, but like she can just. We're working on a DM room. We're gonna do like schedules, but
we're gonna have it. We're gonna get the scheduling for the streams a little bit better so that our
people
friends
know
can,
that the door is open and they like come when they
tell
feel
us,
like.
hey, I want to stream with you on this date, and whatever.
For
yeah.
the record, I like coming on. I just half the time feel ugly.
No.
So I can't.
Listen, if you ever like don't feel like because like no, seriously, and this is something that as a man I never really thought about the impact of, but like we had all like women on the show and they would be like, is this a video interview? Do I have to put a face on for this? And then when we said it was just a podcast, their mood would just brighten like 20 degrees. Like I can just talk. Yeah, I'll do it. This is great. So, I mean, listen, if you want to say that you're on the streets and it's just your logo and the little, the voice print for days when you're rolling out of bed. However, your people are just swarming the chat right now.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They want more Kennedy.
Well,
so think
they're
about
all
it.
angels, all sweet baby angels who I love and adore.
Yeah.
Especially Shayna, who is my mom. I love you, Mom. Not my real mom. She's not my real mom, but she's my mom.
That makes
She's
sense.
my internet mom.
Chosen family is the only real family.
Yes.
Oh, we're gonna get into these Kennedy takes. Wait, we're actually close to transitioning to, I think, your spiciest take about family relationships. But wait, let me just knock this off and say that if we believe that this like nepotism is like I'm being overly strident, but like a counter-revolutionary force, Kennedy. Kennedy Cooper, as I pass this to you, what are some solutions for nepotism in our society?
Like abolish the family for real.
As a woman, I have to say I agree.
If you add "as a woman" to any statement, it sounds more weighty. Like as the official spokesman for half of the human beings in the world.
I am the only woman.
I'm every woman. It's all in me.
It's all in me.
Yes.
God, that's gonna be stuck in my head for like a week.
Brandon,
yeah.
I assume that you're trying to draw out just that like that we're anti-family. Is that?
I don't know if we're anti-family, but you're anti-family.
I am. Yeah, and this Kennedy. What about you? You anti-family?
I am anti-women and people with uteruses being used as baby factories.
You're anti-women and people with uteruses?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. 100%. Down with broads. No broads, no masters.
I can't laugh at that. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I will.
Okay, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with that. I think that there's an issue with like a lot of those dynamics. I think there's an issue with a lot of this stuff in general. I kind of believe in like a more sort of societal view of family.
Yes.
Like and like I believe in like the idea of chosen family, and chosen family can include people that you have a blood relationship with. I'm not like one of those hardline never talk to the people that birthed you again.
You're not saying that the Communist Party should abduct children at age 4 and raise them in a communal setting. You're saying that like once you're like what age do you feel like someone should be where they're tired of their parents and they're like, oh, this bitch.
Well, this is complicated because I believe that you should have some autonomy from the moment that you're born, but that like the amount of autonomy that you have has to like necessarily be limited and then increase as like you both get older, but also like this is not a thing that's just directly related to age. Every human is different and has different life experiences. Some 6-year-olds are very wise and know that they live in a bad home and they should be listened to, right? Like, you know what I mean? Some 9-year-olds are idiots and have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, and you have to like vet these kids a little bit and like not just like take it one way or the other. Like they're either like completely untrustworthy or completely trustworthy, right?
So but this is going to sound completely delusional. And Trump was mocked all across the world for saying this, but I feel like my level of intelligence as like a maybe like age 9 or 10, whatever, is basically the level of intelligence I have now. Like I know more. I didn't know shit, but like my fucking spirituality or you know, ability to process information and shit like that is basically the same as it was when I was a kid. And obviously I had mood swings and shit as a teenager, and I have more life experience and shit like that. But in terms of like, it's not like I didn't know right and wrong when I was like
Here
young.
come the calipers.
Oh, here come the calipers. Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. The word is spiritual intelligence. Yeah, my spiritual intelligence was about the same.
I definitely wasn't like a grown up in every respect, but so okay, here's one of my hot takes that maybe you're trying to suss some of these out of me today. I would probably like, I think if it was up to me, the voting age would be like 12.
I think that's fine. There's a lot of
see that.
People aren't politically developed until they're like 20, but
no one's politically developed at 20 either.
Yeah, I've never met an 18-year-old who was super prepared to go vote. Come on, be real.
Yeah, there are 60-year-olds that like think that fucking Ariana Grande is Beyonce's daughter or whatever that.
There are
dog
60...
that's running for Congress is thing. But like,
yeah, I mean,
you can be dumb as shit at like 90.
There are people who think who are 60 years old and think BTS stands for Big Time Socialist.
Big Time Socialist.
And they're allowed to vote.
Of course it does.
Yes,
so
those people are allowed to vote. So children have more stake in what happens in terms of like the government than adults.
Because they'll be here
a lot
longer.
of people make the argument that they're quote unquote more manipulable, but I think that's just a lie we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel good. Like, I'm not as manipulable as those little kids. Ooh, look at this Honda commercial. Like
we are like, none of us are rational actors anyway. And like children, like you said, like they have the most to lose, like through politics.
Right.
So,
they have a lot.
Is there a big time social?
Yeah. Go ahead, Brandon.
Is there a big time socialist? Is there a big time socialists podcast? And if not, we should start one. That's a great brand. We got to get in there.
Podcast.
Yeah, see, like I hate because like I know that like the K-pop brain has like infected most of the internet, but my immediate thought when I saw Big Time Socialists was Big Time Rush, which is a throwback, and I would like to see like a Kami Carlos. Carlos is the only one whose name I remember, so I can't finish that joke. But I wish I knew more about Big Time Rush so that I could.
I go back even further. I was thinking Big Time by Peter Gabriel. Big time.
Big time.
Redistribute the means. Yeah, anyway. And obviously, Kennedy, none of this extends to our romantic relationships. 9-year-olds, no. Very not good.
We're not talking about that. I'm talking about voting.
Kind of, yeah.
And I'm definitely not one of those. If you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to blank, 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 like fucking libertarian Twitter type shit. You can get that.
We're gonna keep our third eyes closed today.
No.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We don't want that.
But yeah, like, should 12-year-olds be allowed to vote? I think so. I know a lot of people think that that's crazy, but I think that that's about the age where, like, you could be invested in the system. And if you knew that this was coming and the educational system around you didn't suck and stuff, you would be invested in the system.
12-year-olds can vote, but only if they're in a gifted program, which we know is an accurate measure of intelligence and emotional capability.
Yes.
Yeah.
12-year-olds can vote as long as they are in the Mensa Youth Brigade. They have an IQ of 130 plus.
Oh my god!
You're
like, as a child, you're allowed to vote if you were like raised on like opera and caviar. Like,
if you've ever watched Bill Nye the Science Guy and Beekman and Jax, if you know what Beekman and Jax is, you can vote. Actually, that's not fair because everybody who knows who Beekman and Jax is like 30 now.
But no, I just want to say for the record, this 12
go vote.
thing. This 12 years old thing doesn't come from nowhere. This is the age that you can vote in the community voting in the EZLN under the Zapatista government.
I knew. Okay.
And so it's actually, there's data behind like the fact that they are getting kids involved with politics around this age. Some kids don't want to be involved, and that's fine. Some people don't vote, whatever.
Right.
You know, but the kids can be.
I want to give a Barack Obama proposal and like, can we cut this baby in half? For a 12-year-old, would it be acceptable to ask them to pass a civics test, like a basic high school civics test, and get at least a 75, and then they can vote? Or do you feel like that would be like a poll tax?
Could a 30-year-old pass a basic civics test?
Yeah. I think the real answer would just be rather than the testing, like testing-based education has already been proven to be kind of a failure. Like rather than worrying about it from that perspective, just like, are they learning civics? Like my government econ class that I took as a senior in high school was one of the dumbest, like lowest IQ classes I've ever been in. And it wasn't the teacher's fault. It was that he was trying to teach us this shit that we had never learned before. You know what I mean? And like, I could have learned that shit at 8 years old, no problem. Like I could have done my senior level government econ class at 8, for sure. There was nothing in it that was more challenging than that. So like, we just need to stop. Like right now, our entire educational system is based around like fucking the inside mass of a triangle or some bullshit like that you're never gonna fucking use again. And like, we should be teaching. You should have government econ every year that you're in school. Period.
Right.
Because this is the thing that you're gonna interface with the rest of your fucking life.
You live in it. You live in it forever. You don't get to be out of it. You get to be out of algebra. Let's
talk about this for a little bit.
Yes.
What are the most important things we can know by 16 if they're counter-revolutionary? Most of the people that are hosting this podcast were counter-revolutionaries at age 16.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
I definitely was. Yes.
Yeah. We can't really. So real quick question: what do y'all feel like are the subjects that kids should be learning in school, like right now, as soon as possible, and that are central to life right now? Is it like reading comprehension? To what degree is it financial literacy? Should it be crafts, gardening, shit like that? Like if you could build a curriculum from scratch, and let's say we're throwing out algebra and trig and shit, what kind of shit do kids who are in like middle school and up, what do they need to be learning?
Sustenance farming, gardening.
Okay.
Yeah. Also probably like how to wipe your ass and stuff. That might be good.
Yeah. I think probably like a media awareness course, because we're getting now, I think we're learning that stuff authentically. Like the younger generation is so cynical. Like these Zoomers already have that manipulation course just by being alive. They already have like some critical thinking, which is why people who are of my age and in my industry that try to sell people bullshit, we have a harder time with like younger people because they're inured to it. But however, I think that's something that we should be teaching, like media criticism or media analysis, so that people can like be able to tell bullshit information from truthful information. And obviously, like that could never be taught in our school system as it is, just because of the balance of power.
Sure.
But like, yeah, it would be. And listen, that's not a complete solution, because teaching someone logic does not make them a leftist. And there are plenty of logic bros that are right wing.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's not like teaching someone in the same way that like teaching a cop, like giving them, oh, they've got to take more classes on communication, and they just use those classes to like fuck with people more intelligently. So we're talking about that as like part of a large solution.
Right.
Learning how to farm teaches you to nurture in general. And Shayna says this is something that society greatly needs, and I agree.
I agree. Interacting with plants and animals really powerful in that regard. There have been a number of studies shown in this regard, both like this is true of people of all age levels. Like there have been studies about like having like plants or animals in the classroom and like how that's good for kids. There's also been studies about how they're having plants and animals in the nursing home is really good for elderly people, and that like if you have a nursing home that's full of lots of plants and lots of pets and lots of animals that they can interact with, these people don't get completely fucking soul crushingly depressed the way they do when there's nothing around them but fucking white walls 24/7. And like I just to tell a personal story in this regard real quick, when my grandma was in the nursing home before we were able to get her out because she was under the custody of my aunt and the whole thing, they I when I went to visit her, I took her outside to the little courtyard there. But the staff does not take any of these people outside. They literally have an outside area at this place, and like it's just sitting there, and it's only available to them if like a friend or a family member like comes and takes them outside. Just ridiculous shit, really. Very inhumane. But anyway, so when it comes to like what should be getting taught to kids, the kids themselves should be leading the way. I will advocate for like a Montessori method always in general in terms of like what kids are learning. Like, and so to this end, like if some kid's really excited about math, then that kid should learn trigonometry. Like even though we're talking about like, oh, is this shit actually important? Like we need some people to know how to fucking do it, right? Or we're not going to do anything.
Right, because they'll like end up being like architects or engineers or some other like smart fancy.
Yeah, we need all those smart people.
We need bridges that work. We need satellites.
Yeah,
we need these things, right?
And I would like for us to not die because of our infrastructure crumbling under our feet.
Yeah, right.
So, so a Montessori type educational model for any of you who aren't aware, basically, you ask the kids what they want to learn, and a lot of the curriculum is decided by that. And you try to tie some basic subjects into the subjects that they're interested in so that they get a well-rounded education. But the point is that like whatever their interests are going to lead the way. And so again, when we talk about what should kids be learning, what do kids want to learn? And a lot, I mean, especially younger kids that haven't had it beaten out of them yet, go talk to like first graders and ask them about their interests. They have tons of interests. Every first grader has 1,000 interests. Like they're like I like this part of history. I like
dinosaurs. I like fossils. I like slime.
Spaceships. I like physics. I like they're all interested in like all kinds of shit. And then we beat that out of them. No, stop having your own interests. Go fuck yourself. And then by high school, they're just like, okay, what's my name?
I just want to get through this. I'm just here not to get fired.
And as an aside to that, like, I don't know if this is universal, but like probably every young girl loves science until she's like taught that she shouldn't. And like, it's not something that you learn on your own. It's something that is like reinforced, not even just like through the school system, but through like I don't know, like the idea that like, and I hate like this sounds like such like lib femme, like get girls in STEM shit, but like science is definitely like a gendered almost subject, and like young girls are so smart and so passionate about things, and they are told that they're not the right people to be pursuing them. Yeah, at least that was my experience. And so I went from being like an enthusiastic, like I always loved like physical science, and as I like grew up, I loved physics, I loved chemistry and stuff like that. Like I loved working with my hands, I loved working in a lab, I loved all that stuff, but I felt like I was too stupid or too like ditzy or like lax to do it. And I regret that. And I wish that I could go back to a time when I still had that like untainted interest in everything and like wanted to like dig for fossils in my backyard because I thought that's how shit worked, and like do science experiments on my own time. I miss it. And I think the kids like should be allowed to pursue it. Anything.
When do you think that kids should be introduced to politics? And how do you introduce a kid to politics? At what age? do we have these conversations? What are politics?
Go ahead, Kennedy.
Yeah, we mean you, not the other Kennedy.
Yeah.
Hold on, there's something happening.
Oh, okay.
Computer.
Well, something's happening with Kennedy's computer. But there are two things that I think are interesting, and we can talk about until she gets back. One is the Montessori method. I haven't really learned a lot about it. I saw a very indignant TV special about it that was just like they're just letting kids do whatever the hell they want to do. And how do you feel about this controversial subject? So, Kennedy, can you talk a little bit about what your knowledge is of that kind of completely unstructured, child-centered curriculum? And do we have any evidence about like how that works and how it goes?
Let me just give a personal anecdote in this regard. Okay. So I was not doing super well in traditional school as a child. And my parents were looking for alternatives, and they discovered that there was an active, non-religious, semi-structured homeschooling group in the area that we lived at the time that was like pretty legit seeming, and in a lot of ways resembled a Montessori school. All right. And it was just something run by the parents. So there were no fees. Everybody just contributed to, like, all the parents just pitched in to like make stuff happen for us. And it was just very like sort of anarchic and like, just worked on like a simple system of like handshakes and trust. And it was very effective for us kids who, like, I had ADHD. And I was diagnosed with ADHD around this time. And ADHD kids, we don't tend to do well in traditional schools. And usually the only way that we do well in traditional schools is if like a bunch of amphetamines are shoved down our throat, right? So like, that was like my situation with that. And so, from 4th grade until the beginning of 8th grade, I was in this homeschool group, right? So like 4 years of my early childhood, like elementary, middle school type years, right? These are like fairly important times, and like, supposedly like if something was gonna like go wrong with my education, like during these 4 years, right? Like it would be pretty devastating to the rest of my educational career. We did not have extremely structured environment. We would do some stuff like a math worksheet or like a language worksheet or something here and there, but we also did a lot of relatively non-structured stuff and stuff just structured around our interests and the things that we wanted to do. And when I started 8th grade, I myself was nervous. I was like, am I going to be able to keep up with school, like going back to school? And I wanted to go back to school. It was my choice. But I was very scared of it. I was very nervous about it. I got straight A's, no problem. And I was taking like, not just like the easiest classes or anything like that to accommodate that. Like it was just like school was easy. It wasn't hard. That was it. Like it didn't, I didn't have a difficulty jumping back into quote unquote traditional education after coming out of that non-traditional environment, because I was learning the whole time. I was using my brain the whole time. And in fact, I had a mind that was active and passionate about learning, whereas a lot of my contemporaries around me had that completely beaten out of them in the time that I'd been out of traditional schooling, had no passion for learning at all. And it wasn't like they were doing badly in classes, not necessarily because they couldn't do well in classes, but because they didn't want to. They didn't give a fuck. Because why would they? There was nothing to inspire them to give a fuck, right?
Kennedy, yeah. I want to throw it back to you, because before you got disconnected, someone asked, when do you think that kids should be introduced to politics? So let's talk about that. What age and what should they be learning?
So I think probably kids should be introduced to like learning politics from a very early age in like a school setting. And I think that because like I was raised on right-wing propaganda, right? And I think that if I had, like you were saying earlier, like media and like civics education, I think that, it might not have brought me out of, well, for one, it might have kept like the propaganda that I was steeped in from like childhood through, like my teen years. Like it might have kept it from taking hold in my brain and like rotting me to my core and like making me have to like teach myself how to have empathy when I was like 19 years old. So like I think probably pretty early on. And I think that like going back to like the voting conversation, like I was like a little Ben Shapiro when I was 12, but I was a smart kid. Like I knew shit. And I was able to process things. I just processed things wrong because the information that I was giving was wrong. So like, I think that kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. They absorb a lot more than we give them credit for, and they're more influenced by their environments and the things that they're taught than they would have more of a chance to be their own people, like to have their own ideas growing up. I think if they were taught it in like a more traditional setting, or not even a traditional setting, just like at all.
That's a very good point. Shayna, you mentioned some Dayglow yellow polish.
Me, Brandon, did you notice?
Oh no, I didn't notice it at all. No. Wait, let's zoom in a little bit so people can see
this. I painted my
this.
nails this week. It's very good.
Okay.
I only have yellow nail polish. I have like 3 bottles of yellow nail polish. That's
all right. Cool.
That's my story.
I paint my nails like once every 6 months.
Wow.
And yeah, I have no energy to paint my nails. I'd rather spend 6 hours on my eyeshadow.
On your what?
On my eyeshadow.
Oh yeah, sure. And if I don't know if you can teach kids not to fall. Well, here's the thing: you can probably teach kids not to fall for propaganda if you teach them via propaganda. Like if you want to be heavy, I mean, like if you think of like curriculum in places like Cuba, like they teach about the revolution and why it's every kid's duty to safeguard the revolution. Like we could, if you want to be more heavy-handed like that, you can probably like indoctrinate kids in that kind of way. I don't know if we do like curated neutrality about it. I feel like that would just not. I feel like the politics would go in every direction.
Here's what I think. I actually think that leftism is a semi-inevitable conclusion. Like
I agree with that.
I do have that like belief in that like sort of like I'm not all in on like scientific leftism, but I do kind of like believe in that one thing, which is that like I think that like it is possible to sort of like predict that a lot of people will become left if they are well educated in history, and especially history that doesn't come from entirely white male sources, right?
Right.
So like I think that but also even in general, even if we're not assuming that like everyone is going to be has to be a leftist, maybe that's not even an entirely desirable outcome, who knows? But even with that in mind, like I think that most people, one of the reasons they fall for propaganda a lot, or they kind of fall for these tricks that politicians play, that kind of get in their head, right, is that they haven't heard any of this stuff before. But if you're educated in history, and a lot of leftists talk about these historical events a lot, and it annoys people who don't get it because we're bringing up these like riots from 100 years ago and shit, and people are like, why are you talking about this? What does it matter? And we're like, because it's the same shit, because there's trends that have remained the same. And so I think that if you teach people to actually thoroughly examine and understand history better, and thoroughly examine and understand the workings of their government better and their economy better as well, because this is another area where people are often tricked. And how often do you see mainstream economic pundits on the news basically act like the economy is this mysterious divine force that no one can explain, so like
the hand of the market is like the hand of God.
Right. And if you haven't had economics explained to you, you can't disprove that person. You can't watch that person and say, hey, they're fucking lying to me,
And the people that often teach economics are like Reaganomics people. Like my economics teacher in middle school was a libertarian. And like, I attempted to argue with my libertarian teacher, but I wasn't fully equipped. So I would get one, like, even as a kid, I'm very smart, right? So I got 1 or 2 zings on him, but I don't know the fucking history of fucking market economics and shit. OmniLooks, yeah, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Periscope, and we're also on Facebook Live. I suggest you enjoy us while we're on Twitch while it lasts. We're not really like our strategy is not really to be all in on Twitch. And while we're sitting here talking,
we assume you're gonna get banned from Twitch.
Yeah, we assume that we'll get banned one of these days because we're too real for Twitch.
Yeah, we do a lot of
That's
stuff
smart.
that Bezos.
I do want to.
It's just dangerous thought from some like rogue thinkers on the left. I'm feeling so like intellectual dark webbish right now.
Right. Before we continue, Theo asked. It's an incense cone, not an incest cone. That's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing. The whole time I thought a blunt was going to waste. So we're gonna show you our background. We're gonna kick everybody off for like 15 seconds, and you can look at it, and then we'll talk about it for like a quick second, then we'll get back on target. So Kennedy's and then me. We're gonna leave for a second.
That's some hype.
So
shit.
yeah, the background is it's also some really hype shit. But it's a tarot background, and if you've seen our show's logo, it is like a tower being struck by lightning, and it's based on the tarot card, the Tower, which is why we like to dig into that aesthetic once in a while. And if you are into tarot, you know that the Tower symbolizes extremely rapid change that will probably make you uncomfortable, but is also a place for systemic growth. And when we saw that card and talked about it, we thought that was a good sigil for what our politics were as well. Change isn't always comfortable. It can get on your nerves or be traumatic, but hopefully you can emerge from that and be in a stronger place. Yeah, we would love the Lord to hit Trump Tower with a bolt of lightning. Yeah, sure, let's go for it. And yeah, Murasaki Komodo, I know you were into that back in the day as well. So there you go.
Kennedy, you are somebody who is like us. You're on the left, but you aren't completely turned off entirely to all ideas of mysticism or spirituality.
Yeah.
Which is like has been like kind of a pervasive theme on the left in general, especially like the very online like Reddit and Twitter left.
Like if you believe in anything fun, you're like a fascist.
I don't believe in fun. It's a myth.
Yeah, how dare you enjoy yourself by watching like ghost documentaries? You fucking counter-revolutionary douchebag.
Right.
Go fucking
Kennedy,
go
are
read
these
Marx instead of fucking camp like ghost stories?
Are all these people your stands? Like Omni and Theo and Shane, they're just literally here for you.
Yes, I might be very popular. One of them might be my very sweet boyfriend.
I love it.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about just like because I think this would be a good like final topic for us to muse on for a little while. Do you want to talk a little bit about like the relationship that you feel exists between spirituality and leftism that might be positive that like isn't really seen, or that anything along those lines kind of?
I think that for one, like, and this like you don't have to be like super spiritual to be like an empathetic person, but I think that this focus that a lot of like really online leftists have on like logic and reason, like, yeah, it's first of all, it turns people off. Like I remember people shitting on Marianne Williamson just for being like a bit of a like what people would call like a crank, but like she speaks like a language that gets to people. And I actually like popped off with some really weird like spiritualist takes about like, okay, toward the beginning of the protests happening over George Floyd's death, there was, and I do feel like like this has been taken a little bit too far in like a performative way since, but there was one clip that like did the rounds online of people praying for forgiveness for like racism. And I was of two minds on that, because I think that, you know, I think that it can obviously be like a, you know, like you party on Saturday and go to church on Sunday, but like with racism, so like you like go to your Klan meetings and then you pray about it and you're like, oh, you know, like I think that, you know, that can easily happen. But I also think that like people are only going to come to a lot of these conclusions through spiritual means. And so I think like because in so many places in this country, like the church is the center of is the center of a community, or, you know, like even like, you know, people who are like more spiritual than religious, like there's a lot of empathy and energy that can be directed to things that are important, political goals that are important. And I think that people who gravitate towards politics in a sort of like not politics, who gravitate more towards spirituality, have a, I don't know how to word this, but like there's a way of communicating with people that gets, you can communicate like with Marianne Williamson, she can communicate like issues of historical materialism. Like she can communicate things that have happened in the past in a way that gets to like normal ass people, shit libs who like never would have listened to anybody talking about it, because she sounds like Gwyneth Paltrow, you know? Like she sounds like she's gonna sell you like a vagina candle, and like that's fine. Like if you're, you know, if you're a bit of a, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would call me like a bit of a crank with some of the things that I like personally believe, but you know,
You're not a crank, damn it.
Well, I hope
you're the
not.
most normal fucking person on this damn internet. Damn it.
Oh,
there's a lot of.
Oh no.
We're surrounded by cranks out here, so we know.
At least if I am a crank, at least it's fun and harmless and cool and also interesting.
Yeah,
that's right.
I have a different but not contradictory take on this point. That like I agree with you, but I also think that it's worth noting that a lot of times like the new atheist attitude towards religion is necessarily like colonial or imperialist in nature. Mm-hmm. It is not something that takes into account the idea that there are things besides mass institutional imperial religions, and that some people, you know, would really like to just be left alone to practice their traditional beliefs, and they're not even trying to involve you. Like they don't want you there, you know, like, and like those people are not the problem. And like a lot of times there's this blowback that I'd like to hear from both of you on, from certain people, that anybody that engages in any spiritual practices is basically proven themselves to be in some way unsound of mind.
Yeah, those people are whack. But let's just go back to where that comes from. I mean, most of the religious experience in the United States is people literally and exclusively using religion as like a bludgeon to oppress other people.
Yeah.
And if you are of an age that is between like 25 and 40, probably your formative experiences with religion on a political scale are like the religious right, working to like oppress gay people, make shit harder for single mothers, for families. So like a lot of the edgy atheism of like the 2004 to 2014 era was just like people being edgy atheists as a reaction to right-wing dominionist thought. Right. So if you are from that age, if you're between 25 and like 35, 36, 37, like you can hopefully put that into context as like the edgy atheists were like, this sounds weird if you're under the age of 25, but we're like heroes on the left because they were like the main people that were like, actually, no, we should not be in Iran because of Gog and Magog and a prophecy you thought you read. But at the same time, since the religious right has so transparently destroyed itself ideologically, because it's so transparent now, and they've lost so much power that they're like clinging on to Donald Trump, who's like a deeply, thoroughly, obviously immoral person, more than amoral. It feels like that kind of aesthetic is not needed anymore.
Right.
You know, it served its purpose and should be kind of moved along in history.
And now, honestly, it's being used as an excuse for like you said, it did. You know, I remember, you know, at the very like last swing of like TJ Kirk or whatever his name is being like a Bernie bro, and like that whole like chud like anti church, but still like I'm gonna laugh about, you know, somebody being gay or like trans. And I, you know, like now I feel like since like the need for that political response has worn off, because the evangelical right has sort of, you know, it certainly seems like it, you know, like it still has institutional power, but like it certainly seems like younger conservatives are taking other, you know, like routes to the way that they like do their marketing and their messaging. But like those people still exist, and now they're just like trans people are bad, and also we should carpet bomb her on like they have completely, they've done a complete 180. And not all of them, and certainly not the people who like were edgy atheists back then. Like as far as I'm concerned, like even though TJ Kirk is still like a little bitch, he probably still wants Medicare for all, right? But like most of these people now are like edgy shitlord reactionaries, like Sam Harris, and also Sam Harris and
Sam Harris.
Sam
Don't
Harris,
forget
yeah.
about Sam Harris.
Don't want to forget about Sam Harris.
To what degree do you feel like young dudes are conditioned to be trash?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about this statement?
I feel like I can't answer this question because I've been on a dude's rock tirade recently, so I wouldn't be able to answer this question fairly, because I've been too much of a cool girl.
Yeah, we don't need to get into, I mean, unless you just feel like doing it. Yeah, we don't need to get into all that. But the dudes have been doing better than some of the women lately. Maybe by pop culture. We need more Kennedy. See, I can't really tell which Kennedy, because whenever we're doing an episode, you're always like,
either one.
No,
they just
we need another Kennedy, is what they're saying.
Yeah, they just like a third, a fourth.
We need a third Kennedy.
Just like an all Kennedy podcast.
Yeah.
We can get like Kennedy from Fox
Can we make
News
an all Kennedy supergroup leftist podcast?
Yes.
We need one more Kennedy, but
only one more Kennedy, and then we can like complete the trifecta and like send
power trio.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So
all Kennedy.
All Kennedy. Well, until we find, oh my God, let's not do that. Oh my God.
My namesake, my wonderful, the person that my parents loved enough to name me after. I love it. It feels good every time I see her saying some dumb shit about poor people deserving to die on the news.
So, how do y'all feel? Are y'all ready to wrap up, or y'all want to keep talking about stuff? We've done a clean hour, so if y'all want to stretch this out, we can.
It is y'all's show.
Okay.
So I will do whatever.
I think that I don't know. Are there any other topics that we were super excited?
Well, we can talk a little bit about what's going on in Oklahoma, and we can celebrate that for a few minutes, I suppose. It's not a cult; it's a movement. Someone has seen what was that show with Aaron Paul? The name fucking escapes me, but it was about Aaron Paul in a very Scientology-esque. The Path.
Oh, no.
The Path was the name of the show.
Okay.
And that was one of the things he said when he was in, was a cult. He would be like, it's not a cult. And you can imagine in his voice, it's a movement. It's a movement.
Now I'm just thinking, do y'all remember that King of the Hill episode where Luann joins the cult?
Yes.
And Hank and Dale roll up outside and they're like, "Are y'all the cult?" And they're like, "No, man, we're just an organization that's promoting peace and love and unity." And they're like, "This is them."
That's, oh my god.
Yeah.
That just brought back like a tidal wave of
Y'all have any
me
cult
watching Adult
experiences?
Swim. No, I
your
was
life?
not raised in a cult. Unless you count right-wing propaganda as a cult, which you could.
Somewhat, but
There's like cultish behavior.
It's also kind of like everybody knows what that's about.
Did you believe in any kind of weird conspiracy theories just as a right-wing person?
No, I don't think that I really believed in anything. I think I just like parroted like the last thing I heard on Fox News.
Okay.
I feel like that
I don't
means
think
that believes you. Well, I don't know what the time period was, but like if you did that now, you would be like a QAnon. Like,
oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like, oh yeah, the Chinese made the vaccines. Bill Gates is trying to. Yeah.
The trajectory that I was on, honestly, I could have been Caitlin Bennett. Like, I think I was just like I might be like a year older than her or something. I could have been her. I got the ramen noodle hair and everything.
Yeah, you would have crushed her too, because you're like.
Yeah, you would have been a much better Caitlin Bennett.
She would have been.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Know?
Maybe I should turn into like a leftist Caitlin Bennett. Be like, come and take it. Like, have a gun and like a sickle and hammer.
You should literally do that. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Leftist gun girl will be like a fucking a vibe. You'll go viral instantly.
Oh
and
my god!
We'll ride your coattails.
Imagine the bad praxis fucking Patreon after that. Whoo!
You'd have to make your own spin-off. Don't let these nerds get the bag out from under you.
No. See, I'm a communist, which means I gotta share the wealth.
Oh.
I'd never keep my wonderful co-hosts and comrades from my thirst trap money. How could I do that to anybody?
They're watching, so let's all keep it under control.
You should definitely you should just go through Caitlin Bennett's like videography and like just literally take
parodies of
her videos and just do a leftist version of all of them. Like,
I'm going to.
Idea. That's a good idea.
I'm gonna go to like George.
You gotta
Washington
give me 10%.
University.
By the way,
I will. I'll give you guys a cut. Because of the communism. I'll go to like George Washington University and like ask people like I'll set up like a Marx was right, change my mind, like debate table, like fucking Steven Crowder. I mean, I could go full like foil to the right wing grift. Let's go.
But of course, and I'll remember that you're into grifting because we might do some aggressive grift type triggering people type shit as the year goes on. So given that, it's kind of interesting to remember that like even being more talented than Caitlin Bennett wouldn't put you in the same place, because what they reward on the right wing is just willingness to repeat dumb shit,
right,
more than like your personal merit or quality. Like we talked about nepotism early on, and like that kind of exists. Like the weirder your takes are, or the grosser they are, or the more condemned you are, that's like currency on the right. Like if you think about that guy that made the fucking joke about George Floyd, and how he got 30,000 followers overnight just because he got boosted by everyone on the right. They were just like, yep, we love it. We support it. He's being silenced. Go follow him. And they just fucking did it.
I remember back in my Tumblr days, and this was like my like first, I talked last time I came on the stream, I talked about like how like watching everything that happened in Ferguson in 2014 like really impacted my politics. And there was this girl, Ashley Ray Goldenberg, on Tumblr, who is now she's a Twitter fascist, communism kills, right? And I beefed with her because she wrote a limerick about Mike Brown. I don't remember everything, but I remember the first line was like, there once was a thug named Mike Brown.
Oh, good.
And you just you can see where it goes from there. Like a childish rhyme about a child who was murdered. And I like, she built an entire platform. I don't know if she like was already like on the right wing grift before that, but she built her
She had it
platform off
then.
of the right. She built her platform that she has now off of the controversy from literally like sing-songing about a child being murdered by police. And like
Amazing. Wow.
just, she's also a Jewish woman who dated a Nazi, but that's
Yeah,
another
like-
yeah.
But like that's what they want from you. Like if you are like a woman on the right, like they just like test you and they make sure that you will debase yourself in every way
Mhm.
possible in order to have that platform. So you have to do shit that's like just totally against like human conscience or human nature. And if
I mean,
you try
like,
to if you
it's
try to hold
Matthew
on to that
Heimbach.
at all, they will keep you at arm's distance.
Right.
Like even someone like Tomi Lahren, who like we all hate, like she said she was pro-choice once, and she's never going to be in the clubhouse in a real
Right.
way. They use her because she has a platform and it's useful to attack the left. But like, there's nothing that she can do that would really have her be accepted. Or someone like Michael Steele. Like, you've got to be really fucking completely fucking disgusting in order to. The bar is higher if you're like woman or you're black or you're whatever to be in those circles. You've
Right.
got to really aggressively attack your own people in order to get the platform.
Right.
Not like other women.
Right.
Yeah. There's no women. I have takes on this. I should not talk about leftist women.
Takes.
protecting their women. Ooh, I could. There. Let's just say there are some
Takes.
popular feminist anarchist podcasters, maybe perhaps, who are fine with sexual harassment and assault when it's their friends and
Are you
not
talking about Red
other
Scare?
people. No, I'm not talking about Red
No,
Scare.
we're
I'm
talking
about,
much smaller scale. Much
Oh,
smaller
okay.
scale.
I'm talking about somebody that Red Scare hates.
Oh.
Yeah. Somebody who like positions her. See, I said I shouldn't have said it. Anyway, moving on. Dudes rock. Dudes rock. Forever. Dudes rock 2K forever.
As a dude, I always love hearing that I rock individually and personally, and definitely like I'm not saying this like we're wrapping up. We can probably do like I don't know a little. We can cover this next story, but yeah, we always have your back under all circumstances, and you are definitely welcome to come out here and spit that shit whenever you feel like it. And I feel like you're like you've been an honorary member of the crew for like a long time before you even got here. So, yeah,
That's so sweet.
thank you. That's what it's all about. It's all about making you cry.
Oh,
It
that's
looks like
we
when
love
podcasters-
to do feminism by making women cry on a podcast
That's right.
for content.
Feminism right now.
I'm gonna go and get a drink. So if y'all can stall for like a
Oh,
minute.
let's wrap up, I think. Let's
Oh, we
talk.
don't-
Yeah.
All right.
we can be.
Well. Let's
done.
quickly talk about Indian country because it's
Oh,
so.
Yeah,
good.
hell yeah. This is
Yeah.
good.
This is a
Okay.
big deal.
Some good
Let's talk
news.
about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Get
So
laid out.
yeah. So there's been a 7-2 Supreme Court decision. Historically, the United States does not honor treaties that are made with the indigenous, but a case went up to the Supreme Court talking about Native American jurisdiction over land in Oklahoma. And this is a land that enveloped half the state and is covered by an old treaty saying that this would be Native American run and managed, and that federal law would be handled by that community in terms of things that affect their own people and shit like that. So 7-2, including Gorsuch, surprisingly, who authored the resolution. We're not at a revolution quite yet. With
No,
this shit.
unfortunately.
Maybe later. But
Vladimir Gorsuch.
Gorsuch, welcome. Yeah.
Welcome to the resistance.
Welcome to the resistance. That's right. But anyway, yeah, it turns out like half the state, maybe a little bit less, is now federally considered to be Indian lands or whatever the word they use, a reservation. So if there's like a crime committed, it goes through them instead of the feds, and that's great news. We love it.
Thank fucking like whatever entity is watching, and obviously the people who have been pushing for natives to have their own autonomy on their own land,
self-governance and self-determination. We love it. Quick shout out Kenzo Shibata, Class Time Podcast, good show. Dropping by the chat, we love to see it. I'm such a feminist. I tell women to stop smiling on the street. That's the way to go, dude. That's still rocking.
Doing the work. That's doing the work.
Doing the work,
sis.
This is the best news. We love it.
Yeah, all right, finally something good.
Yeah,
I mean, well, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see what exactly the fallout from this is, of course, because the Supreme Court saying something, and then what that translates into can, end up going down kind of a lot of ways. But it's very hopeful news on a lot of levels. And let's balkanize.
Okay. Well, listen, this has been great.
Let's go for it.
Another incredible episode. We're going to be back tomorrow. I don't know. Usually we do a Rachel drunk misandry time, but I don't know if she'll be in shape for it. And if not, maybe Andrea will be back. Maybe Kennedy will be back. We don't know. We throw this together last minute.
I mean, we might also, maybe we just won't do the 4 p.m. stream because we're
doing something at 1. We might not even be here. So
again,
either way,
EST, Xena Spizakis, New Jersey 9th District, very, very shady primary. Lots of shady people involved in deciding how these votes would be counted and stuff. Brand new Congress is definitely looking to push for some kind of accountability or investigation, and we are going to get all the details tomorrow at 1 Eastern. And of course, that video, we'll pin it after, so it'll be there hanging out. If you don't catch it right on time, check it out later because it's going to be worth watching. This is going to be, like, I think, pretty interesting in terms of, like, we know there's been a lot of fraud in a lot of elections in 2020. Here's some people who have a lot of evidence of the fraud and are trying to do something about it. And let's fucking hope do it. Yeah, hope that something good. I'm
excited to see it.
Kennedy, can you talk about what's going on Bad Praxis? Like how are operations going? What's new? All that.
So, Bad Praxis has, in the last week or so, we have welcomed a 4th co-host, our lovely friend Amelia. Amelia being on Twitter. She's a communist Taylor Swift stan, and so she has a lot of Marxist stan culture takes. A lot of she's been opening our third eyes about the world of mass scale grooming via child entertainment. We recently came out with an episode about the YouTube algorithm, the YouTube Kids algorithm. Last night we recorded an episode about, well, you'll see. But basically, our third eyes are open. We are working on an episode about Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider, which will be a Patreon. There'll be a Patreon episode. So sign up at badpraxis.com, which will redirect to our Patreon.
Wow!
Follow us at Bad Praxis Pod on Twitter, and check us out.
Sick as hell. Well, listen, are y'all gonna talk about Davi Vanity? I don't know who that is. Davi?
You don't know who that is? I would love to fucking invite me on if you're gonna do that. Maybe.
We will. I actually will, because I've been meaning to have you on anyway. I've been meaning to have all of you on.
Yeah. Listen, we gotta build the platform.
Joint pod.
Yeah, we gotta do more joint shit.
Definitely, and I would love to talk about that in particular. I just really quick, I want to spoil this a little bit, but like I knew one of the guys in Broken Side, if any of y'all remember them, and
shit,
the leader of that group was definitely a sexual offender, and I will talk all about that.
7th grade me is just absolutely fucking heartbroken. MySpace friend trained me is just sobbing at the fact that the Broken Side guy is problematic.
Yeah. Yeah, the main guy in Broken Side was extremely. We'll get into it. We'll get it.
I'm
I'm
not
Anyway.
saving that for
Can't
Bad
wait to
Practice.
hear
You
it.
have to listen to Bad Praxis Pod, a future
Yeah,
episode.
that's the way to drop it.
That story.
Yes.
In the meantime, we're gonna let y'all go. Thanks so much for watching. Again, 1 Eastern tomorrow. We're gonna be looking at election fraud with a bunch of brand new Congress people, kind of helping us take a deep dive into that. And also, if you haven't heard it yet, our 100th episode is out. It's almost 5 hours long. It features like a bazillion people. It's a crazy fucking experience.
That's so exciting. It must
not
have
only
been a monster to edit.
Not only is it almost 5 hours long, the Patreon version, if you become a patron, is 6 hours long.
Yes.
Oh my God, we
It's a
see.
whole hour and
We
a
love
half
extra
of
content.
If you become a patron, that's for patrons of all levels. Just give us a buck. You can go check it out, get the full version. Extra rambling about history with Ted Anderson and other like just weird, interesting stuff.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, so check that out. Patreon.com/notsafe. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.